Sounds good. So let's go ahead and start. Thank you everybody for joining and anybody who may be watching this on the recorded session. But we're doing a grooming of MFTF 3.0.0 items. A lot of these items pertain to basically creating backwards and compatible changes and tests and they're being selected. They've been selected and already talked about internally a bit on most effectiveness, right? Because we understand that backwards and compatible changes and tests are disruptive and all that, but fear not that pretty much every case that we're going to be making something that's backwards and compatible, we're also going to be making a upgrade script to go along with it, so that somebody can be able to upgrade their tests so that they're not breaking anymore. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump on in. We have these 11 issues that we need to get through, so let's go ahead. If anybody who's dialed in has any questions or any comments, concerns on any of these, by all means, feel free to chime in. We're going to start with issue 583, update XSD schema to verify that file only has a single entity. I'll give ourselves some 30 seconds just to read the existing AC here.
Actually, let me verify one thing according to that. 1 second.
Sure.
Before we skip to next point.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to reorder these just a little bit, just for legibility. So single entity per file for all entities except for data and metadata. I think everybody agrees with that, right? The idea here is to make tests and action groups, sections, and pages have their own. But data and metadata is the sort of thing that you're going to have several definitions that are really similar. Or metadata is the kind of thing that you won't have all the CRUD operations probably in one file. So it makes sense to do that. One question I did have about this, does this encompass at all changing the required, how we require, like let's say action groups to end with action group? Should it affect that or no? So right now we have the MFTF has a requirement for an action group to parse in the action group folder, it needs to end with action group in the file name, right? Do we want to tackle that as a part of this ticket, since we're going to be changing some of the requirements by adding nesting subfolders and stuff like that, or?
I think Lucas will hate us if we will do this.
Sure. I mean,
I would like
Why?
actually to, because you
But
groups.
so why should I hate you?
I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? Loosening up restrictions on file name requirements, as long as they're in the right folder?
It seems a little bit redundant to us that you got action group folder, and inside this action group, each action group ends with wording action group.
Actually, it's quite useful. Let me explain why.
Sure.
Imagine that, or maybe not imagine, if you've seen my MFTF live coding on Fridays, it's focused on writing MFTF coverage for Polish payment provider. And I explained my listeners, my like people who watch me, that if you have no idea what's the action group name, actually you can write the name, like click Ctrl-Shift-N on your PHP storm, and then write the verb that describes the action that you want to perform, and then append action group to it. Like, let's say I want to place an order, so I write place order action group, and then it finds me the right file, the right action group to use at that place. So I feel like this suffix action group is actually useful for for IDE usage. When you have no idea what's the name of action groups, you don't need to crawl all the files to find the right file, the right action group.
Sure, fair enough. If we think that there's use for it, I have no problem with keeping it, and I just figured that I would ask.
I also think when you open first time a task and you going through those sections, it will be easier to understand what reference you're using in each place.
Sure.
So currently, do we allow both, like, or only one? Like
only action group at the end. If I'm not mistaken, that's in
Correct.
the
DI.xml.
DI.xml, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's just scrap that idea then. Just stay focused on the single entity per file and the subfolder stuff here.
I did have a question.
Mhm.
So I think entities, we only, basically they need to be unique name. With the subfolder, do we still require uniqueness?
The name, it's not necessarily that the entities required, the names are required to be unique, is that if they're not unique, they're going to merge with something else.
Right, but we have the subfolder now.
Yeah.
Do we?
Under two different subfolders, should they be unique? Or should we use some kind of namespace and based on the path?
I didn't think that the subfolders or anything like that would affect merging or anything. I thought it was just more of a convenience thing. Like effectively the way that I thought it was going to be is that it doesn't matter how many subfolders you have within a test folder. At the end of the day, it still reads all of the entities and then flattens it all.
We can,
What if
that's
I
a
name
decision.
mine?
We can make it work if we want to. If we can utilize the subfolder structure internally. That's just ease of use for user to have a shorter name, but just a.
Yeah, that's a thought. That's a thought. I hadn't thought about it like that. I honestly thought that the folders were just going to be for organization's sake, because we're disallowing multiple entities per file, but we are allowing folder structurings for logical groupings for somebody to play something logically, like everything that belongs to, or every test that belongs to creating a product and all its variations, they just exist under the create product folder, right? Right now they would exist under create product.
So there is one thing that comes to my mind. Maybe, maybe support subfolders, but recommend people to just do it the way that you have front-end admin HTML and actually CLI or just API and split that action groups, show the best practice that it's good to split them into these three kinds of categories.
Right.
Because we still have issues with that, with splitting up which action group is focused on front end, which is the backend one. So when you will find, for example, the same example like before, when I will find like place order action group by the directory, I will know immediately what's the purpose, like if it's admin HTML place order button or front end place order button.
So, with this suggestion, do you think we need to remove prefix for all action group, which is currently admin or storefront?
Actually, I don't feel in the power to introduce that everywhere. So in the places that we already have, when the prefix is present is present, it's fine. It's I feel like it should be encouraged to be introduced. But if there is something, if somewhere it's missing, we will just for now we will use the directory as a, let's say, hint of what's the goal of it, because introducing these prefixes everywhere would take too much time. That's first thing, because it's related with so many references broken. And another thing is the fact that you still have to manage to tackle renaming all that files one by one.
Okay. I agree. Just because we can make breaking changes, I don't think, we can make sweeping changes to the tests. Repositories, I don't think we should. Not if they're not effective or have a really good reason. So no changes to name spacing or merging or anything like that, right? Upgrade script to split multiple entities into separate files for all entities. Let me edit that a little bit and add in into folder named after original file name. Does that make sense to everybody? Let me make this a little bigger for the people inside the room. I just realized that unless you guys brought binoculars with you, but I don't think anybody did. Might be a little hard to read. Thanks. Sorry about that. Upgrade script will separate files into false folders, so no need for multiple entities. Hold on. Help me understand the difference between the second to last and the last bullet point.
So if the file only contains one entity, we don't touch that file. We don't mark.
That's something Reese pointed.
If file only contains one entity, do not touch file. Okay, cool. I just condensed both of those into one. Dope. Do we have a label for ready for development or anything like that?
Not yet, but I'm putting everything into MFTF 3.0 board into the
Got it.
column. Everything with Grooming, it's going to appear there.
Good enough. Unless anybody has anything else to say about 583, let's move on to 584. We can always revisit 583 if somebody has any thoughts afterwards.
Test coverage, documentation.
Good point. So we have dev docs and technical guide update. That works. I'm going to put that at the very end. That's usually how I structure it. Do we need, what kind of test coverages does this need?
Verification test? We can put
Yeah.
files.
Yeah, you got it. Verification test coverage. That's the most effective. It's the easiest one to do as well, so that lines up nice. Good call.
What type of verification test?
Just the fact that it does or does not read, I think. So verification tests have a similar structure to the Magento module would, right?
So the schema change should be checked by schema.
The schema. No, I think that the schema change would be checked by XML schema. The thing that we're actually trying to make sure that this gets fixed and doesn't stay broken. Exactly. You got it. And there's also going to be a massive change to the verification test in this one as well, mostly because we're going to be changing the schema. So good luck, whoever does this. It's going to be like 300 files change or something ridiculous. Sweet. So 584. This is implement a mechanism to extend MFTF actions from outside the framework package. Oof, this is a big boy for sure.
Ready for development.
Yeah.
Put the label ready.
583 I think should be good.
Let's keep this for now.
I think so too.
Yes.
This is-
That's a bigger one, and
It's a really good
have
one, but-
Separate meeting for.
like brainstorming and like
I'll put my thoughts into this ticket. We'll describe how I see it should be implemented. If
Cool.
someone from community has comments and ideas how it can be implemented, you, Lukasz, or anyone else, please feel free to put it into issue as comments. But yeah, I'll update it and let you know.
cool. So 585 next. Update XSD schemas to verify object names. So section name should match. Do you agree with this? Admin / storefront description, then section.
I think we can go to technical guidelines and see if we put there.
Let's find out. Where in the world would that even be?
Go to main page, index page of DevDocs.
I mean, I think this is it, isn't it? Production?
Uh-uh.
Getting started?
Uh-uh.
Like you're talking about this one?
Yes. And backend development, the last item. Technical
Technical
guidelines.
guidelines. See, we just shot me a thing over. Forgot that we did this. Is that the link to it, Reese?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do that then.
I mean, it's the same page. But on the right, you can click functional,
Let's see.
and that'll get you to our section.
Functional is.
Functional test or something.
I'm looking for it.
It's like 13.
Testing, functional testing. Okay. Yep. Okay. Page file names must follow admin storefront description, then page. Okay, cool. So that's probably where we got this idea then. Okay, so I'm assuming that all of them would be doing that then. Page section. Data entities also have type. I'm just, instead of calling out each one of these specifically here, I'm just going to send a link to this right here. And then saying that, so.
When we have the subfolder structure, do we require new entities to have admin also?
That's a very good question. That is a very good question. Technical guidelines. I think it's redundant to have both.
The thing is, then in references, we should introduce name spacing. Because we definitely will have admin, customer
Product page.
customer page, product page, admin, customer, product
Yeah.
page.
Yeah.
It's an easy enough thing, I think, to fix if we want to change that later. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I think-
let's keep the same thing for now. Let's not make that many changes.
Yeah, I think we should keep it right now as it is.
That is a really good question, though, G. Okay, so we have object name, attribute should match camel case or lower camel case. How is that dictated? Is that in here?
Common page?
Or what uses camel case versus Pascal case? Oh, it is in here. Okay,
You
cool.
see the sections custom.
Okay, so as well there, I'm just going to say the.
Which
Hold on a second.
If you look at the.
If you look here, it says pages use Pascal case, sections use Pascal case, elements use camel case, right?
got it.
So I'm just going to say, according to the technical guidelines, page model attribute should match vendor product page. This page model say module. M on page URL product attribute should be restricted to page URL param. Let's see if there's anything about that there. Probably not, right? Yeah. Okay, so this is page.url. Yeah, I agree with that.
And not always true. What about if I'm doing M on page env dot Magento store font or something like that, or env dot something.
So references. Yeah.
It's not always gonna be.
References to page URLs should match them, right?
Mm-hmm. And I don't think it even should be covered here because I remember we had an ability to specify URL, page URL, just saying page. Yes, that's it. If I'm not mistaken, we removed it or no?
I don't remember, to be perfectly honest.
I think we just need to remove this ability to specify only a page name. That's it.
Yeah, so
you
not
always must specify page.url, page.url.
Can that even be done at the schema level? I don't think so, right? Okay, cool. So I'm gonna cut this and then paste it in Sublime over here so that we know to track it somewhere eventually.
We can create another issue.
Yeah.
For this, it's not a big one.
Okay. Okay, cool. So restriction will be breaking. Restriction will be breaking upgrade script must be supplied. Add naming convention and technical guidelines for test. What does that mean?
We didn't have it for test.
That's amazing. I don't know how. I think that we should make an upgrade script for this. This is fairly predictable work. Basically, in our upgrade script, if we're reading a page, we know that that whenever it says name, it's going to need to follow this pattern, right? So then we can add it there.
How are you going to define mean or store form?
That's a good point, I guess. So the admin or store form portion is not assumable then. I was mainly talking about Pascal casing and camel casing and.
Let's do it partially. We can do Pascal case
where possible. Then
let's specify what we can do.
Mm-hmm. For casing plus module name. No.
Why not?
If it doesn't have a module, I guess internally we're just going to assume everything's a Magento module, right?
We can figure this out by path where this file is located. That's
a good point.
Under module name.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, cool. So for casing,
if during a merge, can we know which module? If there's two, I mean.
So we won't even need to worry about that because we're just doing it on this is a file basis, not a merged file basis, right? So we'll always have a file path for where we currently are. It may lead to some weirdness at the very end of it if for some reason there's like 2 pages and it reads in the last one.
If you define a page even in 2 different modules, you read the module sequence. The first module which appears to declare this page first, that's the module should be specified in this field. And the other file which goes down in sequence, it means that's a merge file for the top one. So we can always provide this.
Okay. I think this is good to go.
Rules, this gives me Is it clear for everyone what should be done in this ticket? If no, you can always ask in comments or MFTF
Yeah.
Slack channel or directly, whatever you like more.
Now we're on 586. Add optional label attribute to entity fields. Oh yeah, this is an old one. I remember this one. Okay.
It looks like in a real API, how do you use the data country?
Same way as it is right now. The only thing when you have both value and label, when you trying to send an API call, you will use value. But when you try to verify this in storefront, you will use label.
So does the reference in the test become country.label?
Nope.
It just automatically picks
Yep.
one? I don't like that.
Why?
Too magic. You can't explicitly say what you want.
You're working in Magento. Magento is too magic.
You can't explicitly say what you want though, and if you do need to use both UA and Ukraine while executing the test, you have to create your second data key just like you're trying to avoid here anyway.
So here,
I don't
in
get
the,
it.
for example, original data, that you have a country that's string, right? Then now you have a data that has this structure. How do we define a complete data that utilize this? What will it looks like?
I don't get your question, G, so what do you mean?
Let's see in a customer data. How you referencing? Did you define this as part of the data inland?
As part of customer entity, customer address entity.
Okay.
So at the end of the day, we're trying to make a user experience such that somebody persists an order that uses a country or something like that in the API. And then whenever they check on the front end, they don't have to use a completely disparate data entity to check it on the front end, right? That's essentially what's trying to be accomplished here.
Yep.
Okay, understand.
Or we can keep it.
I think we should just close this issue and not do it.
No.
What's the benefit of this?
Cleanness of task, because right now if you will go to addresses, you will see that country underscore label Ukraine, country is USA, because someone just missed to update it, and that's it. And with this approach, you will see it will be one line for you will understand that you need to update it. Right now, that's two different data fields, and you never connect them if you didn't write those entities, and that's what I'm trying to achieve. I want to make this connection. The other approach we can make
It's the other way around, right?
yes.
That's kind of what I was going to suggest.
We can add an attribute called value or label. I like value more. I don't know why.
So let's get a before and after going first before we do anything else. So right now we have this right here. This is current. What we have 110 every single time is just going to be country UA, right? Then we have the original proposition, and then which is to say now it needs to be a nested value underneath, and now but you can add an optional label over here
I think your before needs a second data key.
Yes.
It needs data key country
you're right.
underscore
Yeah.
label. That's how you express it today to
Not,
different
not,
values.
not underscore maybe. Come on. No, whatever.
Whatever
Sure,
the name
whatever-
is.
yeah, whatever
We
it is,
used
it
to
doesn't
use
matter.
underscores in data for some reason because they go to the API, I think. But I don't see a problem with that other than, like you said, they could be, one could be defined at the top of the data entity, the other could be defined at the bottom. You could change one without realizing you need to change the other. I totally get that.
I create a merge file where I replace country label, but
I get that.
so there's a lot of cases, and we have this issue right now.
Unfortunate.
So let me ask a quick question. So if we were to introduce something like an API override, so right now we have, let's say we want to keep both of these in the same one. So we would do value here, then API value, or rest, or you know what I mean, right?
Not always API valid.
What do you mean? Like the persistence value, like whatever, because it's not necessarily via an API, it can be via form key.
I like the other, and if we will, let me know.
But let me ask you just one quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
So we have two options. We have one that allows us to create an API value versus one that allows us to define a label instead. So both ways going at the problem. How exactly is this a breaking change? Are we requiring every single data to have a value? Like a value element?
Initially, yes. You cannot create a data field which is a string or nested.
Got it. Okay, so
nested text.
so
that's why
that's an XML restriction.
yes.
Got
so
it.
That's why I like another idea. Let me type it.
Go for it.
Sorry.
There you go, man.
I like
Like as an attribute instead.
a like it is. What did I do?
No.
It's
I have,
compatible.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I have like Windows like.
And I use default macOS.
Yes. Honestly, I prefer that to all the other alternatives. Just an attribute.
Because that's how it's gonna look like if we will, let's say,
Yeah.
open a HTML select option. How it looks, it has value hidden. No one see this, but you see this label, Ukraine. So if you specified value, it's gonna be used in API calls.
Yeah.
If you want to use it in API calls, but if you don't specify that value, you use.
This is still a little tricky for me.
I just don't like it. I mean,
Why?
I think, do we have a use case for like lowercase? Sometimes we do underscore lowercase for the case like the URL key. When you specify something, Magento, when they save, they will change to underscore or something.
Yeah.
Some kind of manipulation.
Yeah, like URLs.
Yeah.
URLs.
So we do that sometimes with the underscore lower key to define a variation of the original value. If we do this, I mean, my point is we are not necessarily using the underscore for REST API versus label. Sometimes there's a different usage.
Okay.
But if I can put my my 1 cent into it,
Please.
I really like the approach with changing it completely and having this value label because it's quite clear, quite obvious, and atomic. That's okay. It's value. You don't need to use it only for API because probably you can refer to that data in forms also when you create when you test like creating data of. Creating data creating new attribute or new entity with data, and it would be useful for custom custom features, custom data. So I find it useful to have that value and label. And actually, I don't find too much magic in using a value as a default when you refer to that data. It doesn't sound for me like magic. It's using value is something that we need just to document, and people will get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So in our second example, if you want to enter UA into a form field, how do you reference that in the test?
Country.value.
Okay, so you want to enter Ukraine into a form field.
Country.
Just country.
Dot label. So okay, so it's different because I would use the explicit if I use it for purpose, I will just use country dot value country dot label. But if I want to make some let's say reference in API, I would just put country, and my assertion would be value.
Yeah, I don't think we're all going to get to an agreement within the allotted time today. We have a lot of stuff to get through. I'm going to propose that we have.
We can make the survey. Let's say, like ask people about it, tweet about
Yeah,
it,
sure.
and
Yeah, we can also have discussions in the comments here as well.
Yep.
Of the merits and demerits of each one of them. Just for the sake of our ability to get through everything, though.
Do you have permissions to update issues, Lukasz?
yes.
You can actually tweet everywhere about this and make a community survey about this. We will try to share this.
Mm-hmm. 587 update metadata data section page entity steps similar naming conventions. Am I correct in saying that this is a duplicate?
Which one?
587.
No. This ticket is more about standardizing naming convention for everything, because metadata using snack case, everything else.
Oh, standardizing the naming convention itself,
Yes.
not making the changes to the files.
Both.
Okay, the other one's about the XSD validation of it. This one's only about updating it on the test code basis, then?
Okay, which one?
File
XSD
names,
schema
right?
object names. We're talking about this one.
Yeah. 585 was talking about the object names themselves, not the file names.
Issue the camel case, lowercase, vendor
The
name.
object name.
This one says nothing about metadata, that it is using snack case and dash meta at the end. So that's a hard restriction right now we have, and if I'm not mistaken, it's even in technical guidelines.
It is not a technical guidelines,
It is not, okay.
apparently. That's exactly what I was double checking.
So this is even better. No one
Okay.
knows about it. So this is making metadata follow the same naming principles without using snack case and dash meta at the end,
Okay.
because it's confusing a lot of people.
Okay, so am I right in saying, though, that the other ones, the other entity types, are already covered in the other ticket?
Yes.
So data is already covered because it's in over here, so we're good on data. Sections are definitely also in the technical guidelines, so we're good there. So we can just... Okay, cool. So, oh wait, no, that's still worth having. AC, so we need to add technical guidelines on meta data naming. So we're going to need to work with Donald, I think, probably on this one for sure. think that'll look pretty. Yes. Cool. Add technical guidelines, and then we need to update XSD schema. Yes, no?
The operation name is actually catalog price context date, so it is kind of proper, but not fits with the file.
Interesting.
And it shouldn't because we have multiple instances inside.
In a single file name, yes.
But it can be catalog price. The file name can be the same as data type. Because data type for create, update, delete, and get will be identical for everything. So
Okay.
we can make this at least. Name, yes, will be different, but data type will be.
Okay, so we need to still upgrade the XSD schema to verify the name casing at least, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it verifies the operation name casing. What will the upgrade script here do? No, I don't want to name the Siri. Update
File names.
What about file names exactly?
Frontend underscore label dash metadata.xml will become Pascal case.
Okay, update file name to become.
So what's the change? We just want to move that dash to an underscore.
No.
What's the change?
So yeah. I want to get it. I want to get it before and after. So we have catalog meta.xml. What does that turn into?
Catalog meta.xml, but Pascal case.
Sounds good. Cool. I just wanted to. Yeah, that's what I thought it was, but I want to make sure we're on the same page.
That's pretty easy, but again, everything will be the same.
Cool.
And definitely it can be a simple upgrade file name script.
Cool. Testing required for this? No real testing required, right? Like we're just a verification test, I guess.
Can you provide an example of the first bullet point? Update operation name casing.
Good point.
What's an
So
example of a bad one?
yeah. So let's see. I think I have category meta over here.
Pretty good to me.
Yeah. Well, it's the ones that we wrote originally. So it's not.
Go to catalog underscore special underscore price dash meta.
Got it. Cool. So it's yeah. And these are going to be camel case? No. What are these going to be? Camel case or not camel case?
Pascal case?
Pascal case as well?
Yeah, why not?
No problem with me. I just wasn't sure what we had agreed on.
Bullet point 2, can you make it say update XSD schema to verify operation name casing is Pascal case or whatever that is?
Sure. Verification test created. The verification test is literally just going to double check that it reads it still, I think.
Mhm.
There's not going to be anything special here. Cool. We good to go on this one?
Yep, add a label, please.
Which one?
Are we going to add a notification to 261 to talk about this change of,
The casing?
like updation of XSD schema?
I don't think we need
Done
to.
that for a couple of-
I think the only reason why we wouldn't need to is because we're providing upgrade scripts for everything.
Mhm.
so that they can just run one command and then everything's just going to be made to work. If there's anything that we would run into here that we can't provide an upgrade script for, then I would 100% agree with you. Which I think we kind of already have for like the actions that are removing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because that can't be upgrade scripted. Okay.
And names, actually, names and file names, we don't refer them any in test in data, nowhere.
So there's not going to be any backwards compatibility
That's
via
only-
changing them?
We're gonna change the IXML. We're gonna remove star-meta to the star meta.
But that's
The old metadata will not be read.
the old metadata will not be read, but it will be if we change the file names here. No?
Yeah, with upgrade script.
Yeah. So then we're okay then. I think yeah. The only time that it's okay to make these changes is if there's an upgrade script tied directly to it. Any other questions on that one or no? Not 588. This is a very straightforward one. I don't think it's going to be particularly
Perfect.
Yep, that's run test should remove previously generated artifacts by default. I don't think anybody disagrees with this.
If the dash sharp is, do we still use that as a?
Like, do we still have it?
Do we remove it?
That's what I think so. If -r is enabled by default, then can anybody think of any reason why we wouldn't want to remove previously generated artifacts?
I occasionally use that different
-k.
Yeah, I occasionally use different ways. Like I want to keep versus I don't want to keep. But I mean.
Yeah. So I think default behavior should be removable, but I think we should maybe still allow not removing it by use of -k.
The -r was originally from a request. Like we already
Yeah.
Basically, this all from a request.
Yeah.
-r was a request because it makes sense. Like it was a request because the original implementation doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Without -r, it doesn't make sense to leave that stuff behind. So
Sure.
people requested -r.
So let me make this the question the other way around. So we have a skip flag. What happens to the skip flag if stuff always removes it by default? Is the skip flag an override to say, hey, don't remove? I think that's fine. I don't see a huge issue with that.
Me too.
You use -k whenever you don't want to have to regenerate tests, which means you would want to have what you previously generated. So -k.
Isn't -k used for skip and API call?
It skips generation and it's
It's already used here.
It's already used.
Oh, duh. Okay, it doesn't skip their generation. It just skips the API call.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. To Magento. No, that's -force. Skip. Okay, no. Okay, I'm not crazy. Yeah. -f is skip API call. -k is skip generation. So -k flag. Updated to not remove previously generated tests.
This
Is that really what we want to do?
This is already like that, right? Do we need to do that?
It is like that, but we have a special clause for -k and -r can't be used at the same time right now, so we need to address that somehow.
And we don't have skip generation and execute existing tests. Remove -r flag. I would just remove this flag and that's it. If we want to add an additional,
Dash R can't. Well, I guess it can be removed. Dash R is actually inherited because the run test command extends the base generate command. That's where it's getting the dash R from.
Yeah.
So we have to change what it extends.
But that
What if we
can
will-
be removed.
Oh, I see. No issue removing dash R. I just want to make sure that we can still have a use case where we generated a test before and we want to run the exact same thing again. We don't feel like we don't want to have to regenerate it.
Right.
what do you think? Let's remove this flag at all. Do not provide any other option. See feedback, adding a new flag, that's a not major change. It can be a feature. If someone needs this, then we will create this. But I think we don't need this at all. If you just run test, specific test, you remove everything generated,
Sure.
and you execute this only test. If you specify run test and nothing,
Sure.
then you generate everything and run everything.
But it's still we still have dash K, which would be a dead flag here
Why is that?
because it skips generation. So it uses whatever is currently generated, which,
Right.
according to removing it every time,
All right. I think-
nothing would be generated.
Why is that? Why if I want to run tests without regenerating this test?
Like what is the use case for that?
Just run it twice and see that test isolation is fine.
Like
That my test is not affecting future second execution of the same test or something like that.
I
Sure.
use that.
Or
feature a lot.
run this test and run this test. See that I have bug in Magento. Fix this bug in Magento. Run this test one more time, but faster. Without generating this test.
I think it all just hinges on generation runtime. To be honest, G, how do you use it?
I mean, I use it. I use the dash K most of the time. I
Oh, so
always
you do.
separate these two steps, and I can do modification with the PHP file, right? And then, I mean, when we run a test, we always remove everything, so I don't have any possibility to set up breakpoints and stuff. That's a big
That's actually a good point.
no, yeah.
I don't know how you can set breakpoints in between generation and running the actual.
Yeah, I mean, we have to maintain that. I use that all the time.
I mean, I agree. I agree with you. I still think so. 100% think that we should remove our flag. There's no disagreement there. Dash K, it being updated is not necessarily new functionality. It's just preserving existing functionality to K. That's the way that I look at it.
What changes about K?
So K makes sure that that stuff isn't removed because that is in skipping generation in its entirely. I'm not sure. I'm genuinely not sure how that's not super clear. So like basically like you have
Dash K, let me try to clarify.
yeah.
Dash K, that's a flag for generate tests.
It's for flag for everything.
Initially.
You're proposing.
No, that's what it is. Dash K, if I'm specifying dash K, it will not regenerate
Yes.
everything. So this flag comes from generate command test.
I think that's right. I'm not sure. Sure.
That's
that-
logically.
That's also apply to run.
I'm not talking about run command. This flag comes from generate command. If we specify in dash K in any of this command, this flag goes through run test command to generate test command, and then this flag is applied to do not regenerate a test.
Yeah.
So this keeps the same. We're currently talking about the ticket where we want to use run test command, specify test name, and clean everything. So I think this dash K flag should work as it is right now, and we shouldn't touch it. We should remove dash R flag, and when we run test and specify the file name, we remove everything under generated folder and generate only single file. If we use dash K flag, it means we want to run the same test without regenerating this test.
Or maybe
That's it.
without guys, maybe without short flag, I mean like one letter, maybe make it explicit, so make it full, like dash dash regenerate, and then it will be clear that and quite explicit that okay, I really need it to be regenerated.
Well, you can specify right now -k or --skip generate. There's two options. One is short.
Yeah, but my point is like the basic issue that we started with, just force regenerate with dash dash regenerate, and then don't provide any shortcut to it, and that will be explicit, and one would.
So you suggesting to repurpose -r flag to be not remove but regenerate?
No. Just don't use any more -r. Just to force regenerate, use the full flag, which is dash dash regenerate, without shortcut, without any shortcuts to it.
I think the issue here is that it's kind of the other way around. It's not that we're introducing a flag to force regeneration, is that we are forcing regeneration by default. You know what I mean? By removing by making it such that things are removed every time, we are forcing regeneration every time.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So yeah, that's
it's tricky, man. No, I appreciate the feedback anyways, or the thoughts on it. Geez.
There's a reason when we introduce both of them.
The reason is that we just the second remove flag appeared later just because we understood that if you run tests, then previously you generated a bunch of tests.
Things get weird.
Yeah. So we introduced this flag just to preserve backward compatibility. So my thought is that we need to keep it simple, remove -r flag, and keep -k as it is.
But even you keep the -k there, if in the R we remove everything, then what's kept?
You do bin MFTF, run test, admin login test. It will go and generate you test file. It will execute this file. Everything is fine. The second time, you saw that you have a bug in Magento. You want to do something. The second time, you understand, okay, I've got this file already generated. You do bin Magento, run test, admin login test, -k, and it will directly execute this test without regenerating this test.
Or anything. I really do think that we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep it simple. I'm not going to remove -r flag. -k or -skip generation still skips generation.
Yep.
So right now, when we use the -r flag, we don't see the sweet files getting removed, right? There's
The sweet files.
the sweet folders, the files generated within sweet folders, they somehow still
Folders remain the same, but they are empty. It means,
Is that what it is?
yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. And we are getting kicked out of our meeting. Thank you guys for joining our meeting. We will schedule another one. Thank you, Lukasz, for your inputs and everyone else.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you.
Bye.
Ask questions.